I can't feel no better. 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 I can't I can't I can't I can't now for a break. I can't feel no better.
Hello, everybody. This is your boy, the Eternal One, Saint Des, and this is going to be episode 2 of the Southern Championship Class Wrestling Reborn. And right now, we get ready to go into our next show. And one of the things that's going to be highlighted is where are we going from now? We basically had our show, and we've already got some potentially important storylines getting ready to be presented to us. So I wanted to give us a recap of what the last show was, and then I'm going to show you what the feuds are, and then we're going to go ahead and put together our next show. So right now, if we go back to our last show, we had a rating of 45. We had 545 people there at our very first show, the SCCW Rasslin. So Shane Sneer, he tells everyone that he's still the rightful owner. You know, Chip Conduct insults fans in the crowd. Jebediah had like a pretty much a match against one of the local talents, and Oscar Amadis, and I'm going to tell you I'm butchering his name. And then we had an angle with Jack Griffith starting to explain to the fans his comeback. Willie York, he defeats another one of the local talent in Joe Jitsi. And then we have the Good Old Boys defeating two more of the local talent in Max McMahon and Luca Danger. And the Dark Locs tell why they are the true owners of the companies. We have Sergeant Bubba Lee West stress the lack of discipline in wrestling. Lazy Perfection defeat Lucas Dangers and Joe Juicy. And we have Tank Bradley defeat Oscar Adamantis. Now, one of the things we got to remember if you've seen the very first episode is Lucas Danger. He actually was high on drugs during this show. So that's going to be one of the things if I decide to hire local talent. I'm not bringing back Lucas Danger as far as being a part of our show. So that's something we just can't have or whatever. And another thing is, I didn't think it would be that short of talent that we could actually try to bring in. So we had some good matches, and I'm going to show you our size as far as a company. But anything that usually if your ratings is above what your crowd, pretty much the size is, you do pretty well as far as your match rating. And here is like the size of our company. When you look at our size, see that's the importance of us, and it is at 20%, at a ranking of 20, which is an E minus. But our popularity is like at 22. So usually, if you can do better with your particular angle or match than the area that you in, you do pretty well. I've noticed that, and there's gonna be some of the more accomplished TEW 2016 or just TEW people in general who could go more in detail about how that plays into your matches and how well your company grow. But I have noticed that's usually if you can go above and beyond what your actual rating is in that particular area, you do well as far as continuing to grow in that region and stuff. But if you go below it, that's usually when the fans kind of turn on you. So now to kind of give us the storylines before we get into our next show is we have pretty much the Dark Locs and Lazy Perfection. And as I said, this is pretty much where when I came up with the storylines, what I'm shooting for, and hopefully it's gonna be interesting to us. And let's see what happens with this. But now, here's what we got. And if you notice, the Dark Lokes and Lazy Perfection and the Aces of Mayhem and the Good Old Boys, pretty much that's gonna be like this entire tag team feud war going, for the SCCW tag team titles. So this is pretty much what this half is. This half of the tag team feud has the ultra serious Dark Lokes versus Lazy Perfection. After using his winnings to buy the SCCW from the bank, St. Ives and Old English are wanting to prove that they belong in wrestling. The somewhat successful Kashmir Singh and Lazy Joe are going to try to stop them as they have their eyes set on the SCCW tag team titles. With one underlying story of this feud is that Shane Sneer is not happy with St. Dad's acquiring SCCW since it was his baby. So pretty much as I've been, building this up to this, I wanted us to know that that's the one part of this tag team feud. And everyone is actually either connected or going against each other in some shape, form, or fashion as far as, advancing this storyline. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the other part of the tag team feud. This part of the tag team feud has the Aces of Mayhem versus the Good Old Boys. The Good Old Boys has the backing of the former owner of the SCCW, Shane Sneer, who wants to regain his former company. And the Aces of Mayhem wants to capture former glory and the SCCW tag team titles. The problem for the Aces of Mayhem must go through the Good Old Boys to get there. I'm going to alter this description real quick because I misspelled, and you will see I have terrible spelling, so you can always laugh in the comments below when you see some of my bad spelling, even with autocorrection. So pretty much when you have the grammar correction, Grammarly, or anything like that, I'm going to be the one that's still screwed up somehow. So that's pretty much our tag team feud for both sets of teams. So now, even though we haven't had it to advance, I'm building up for this particular feud where we have Jedediah going against Chip Condit. Chip Condit wants to bully and talk down to Jedediah because of his heritage. Jedediah is a family-loving wrestler who tries to show everyone that no matter who you are, you shouldn't be looked down upon. And Michaela Milk is a close friend of Jedediah and thinks that Chip Condit is being rude. Michaela tries to help but finds a cold-hearted Ray Snow waiting on the other end. Can Jedediah show the world that he is no different than anyone else? Will Michaela help, or will Chip and Ray make this a tragedy? So you're going to see that I have, pretty much all four of the members in, this particular storyline. And even though the segments haven't been going forward, we're building up to have Jedediah and Chip Condit wind up meeting each other down the road somewhere, and we're going to see if that's going to be a match or whatever in the times to come. So now, another thing that we have is we got Sergeant Bubba Lee West versus Tank Bradley. Now, this is almost one of those nice old school structured angles that you would have seen in the WWE back in the day, but I'm still wanting to put it in this good old boy wrestling setup. So this is a classic between someone who is trying to force structure on others while the other person wants to live and think freely. Sergeant West is trying to get Tank Bradley to fall in line, but Tank Bradley is stuck with having a free mind and spirit. Sergeant West is so determined to make others fall in line that he begins to go overboard while Tank Bradley goes overboard, proving that he doesn't have to fall in line or live by any rules. So if you think of how Tank Bradley is a goth type of gimmick and how Sergeant Bubba Lee West is a legit Army Ranger trying to play into his psycho gimmick, we are going to have a true clash of, just styles right here. So as this gets ready to continue to build towards being something, we're going to see Bubba Lee West and Tank Bradley actually just show you who they are, hopefully we'll see their characters develop more, and we're going to see how well the crowd and how the companies in the world just perceive and accept, what's going on. And then we have the last thing that's in here is Willie York going against Jack Griffith. So Jack Griffith wants to prove that he has one more good run in him and wants to erase demons of his past. A run at the top of the SCCW will allow him to do just that. Willie York wants to dust off his boots to prove that he is still the toughest man in wrestling. Maybe a stretch, but he's legit enough to try and prove it. He eyes being on top of SCCW as a way to reintroduce his name to the wrestling world, and bumping heads with Jack Griffith is a way of putting a notch in his belt. And I'm going to go ahead and change that right now before I go any further, because I see, and I think I have a bad keyboard because there's an E that just keeps not being placed where I want it. But this is what I want us to think about with this. Jack Griffith, his character, he is legit had alcohol issues in the past. So he's trying to prove to the world that not only is the SCCW being reborn, but he is being reborn again as well. So he's trying to let everyone know, I'm going to try my best to be what the world think that I am, and I got one more good run. I'm going to show the world that I can be champion. And then Willie York, however, he is wanting to let everyone know that he's still a legit fighter. And when him and Jack Griffith clash, he wants to let everyone know that not only is he back on top, but he wants to take out a well-known person just like Jack Griffith to show everyone that, hey, I'm back and this is where we're going. So that is our feuds and stuff, and that's our storylines. So let's get ready to go into our actual show and present it. So here we go. Now, one thing that we already have, in case you've never seen this in TEW, is we have a locker room incident right here. Now, when I click on it, there's no telling what happens. It can be a good thing, it can be an extremely bad thing, but whatever happens right here, it can actually extremely improve the morale of the locker room, or it can completely ruin your show. So you always want to be able to keep your fingers crossed and hope for the best whenever you see a locker room incident happen. So let's see what happens. So this incident involves Sweet Tabitha, and in case you didn't know or kind of new to the series, Sweet Tabitha is the manager of Ace Youngblood and Max Mayhem, who are the Aces of Mayhem. And it didn't show, but to just kind of let you know what's going on. And if I have to, let me go ahead and add another thing to see if it's going to pop it up for us. Let's see. 1, 2. Yes, there we go. And in case you've not seen it, so for future references, I may have to fix and do some more, but it actually wasn't there. But to let you know that Sweet Tabitha brightened the mood backstage after doing several funny cartoon drawings of her colleagues. So by doing that, we're going to see that down here in the notable other factors, Sweet Tabitha doing cartoons, and it actually raised our backstage rating from a 94% to a 95. So right now we got extreme, helpful help from me with my AKA cheating ways as far as leadership. But we also have Sweet Tabitha doing one of the first legit actual good things backstage by making funny cartoons for everyone. So other than our language barrier that we still haven't addressed, we are still going in a positive light as far as, you know, the show and as far as the company. So now I'm not going to even change a location, but I will see where we're going. We're expected to have 585 or 89 fans for this show, and we're gonna stay in the southeastern region, I guess. So I guess that's where we're gonna just. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the best venue, and it's like, due to a lack of appropriate places, a generic venue has been chosen as the best potential location in this region. And we'll go ahead and just go into the show. So we'll go ahead from here, put the show together, and then I'll start broadcasting from there. I'll see you then. All right, everybody. Now we are in the actual show, so let me go ahead and let you know that we are now being in front of 593 people. So we already done went up from the 554 people in our first show. So now we still in the southeast region of the USA, but here's our very first show. So we start out with a match with Willie York going against Joe Gissi. And I'm telling you, I'm going to butcher these names, so just bear with me. But in a decent match, Willie York defeats Joe Gissi in 6 minutes by submission, and he gets a 35% rating for this match. And it says we had a strong start, so we're doing pretty good. So we're going to go into our next part of the show, and we're going to have like another video of Jack Griffith telling his comeback story. And the crowd is hyped because Jack Griffith, he's already a fan favorite. He's pretty much the someone that's well known in the region. So everybody is like just feeling good about Jack Griffith and what he's trying to do with his life and stuff. So I don't know about you, but I'm pulling for Jack right now. Then we have a decent match with Jedediah, and he going against one of the local talents that's in this region again, Oscar Aramadas. Now, one of the things that I'm going to tell you, I'm planning on probably more likely signing some talent to just be on the roster to be that, enhancement talent, so that we won't actually hurt the credibility of our overall wrestlers. But right now, keep using this local talent is, one, expensive, and two, I don't have enough to pull from the region. So that's something that I'm looking into as soon as this show is over with. But right now, we had Jedediah going over with a sundown splash with a nice decisive win over Oscar. Then, to just go with his despicable ways, we have Chick Conduct coming out insulting Jedediah after the match. And Jedediah, for whatever reason, just walks off. So Jedediah, he has a great match, but when Chip Conduct comes out trying to be a better man, Jedediah, instead of beating him up while he's being insulted by Chip Conduct, he just pretty much walks off and don't want any parts of what's going on. Now, even though it said that it was subpar wrestling, we had a decent reaction from the crowd. We had Aces of Mayhem going against Joe Gissi and Riley McManus, who is pretty much some of the local talent. So I'm already overworking them and stuff, but I mean, they actually in there, they doing the best they can. And I can't lie to you, I actually thought that I had a match with the Aces of Mayhem on the last show, which I didn't. So this was actually the very first time that the Aces of Mayhem was in the ring physically. So right here we see where they actually did their actual debut for the company and stuff. And we see now that the Aces of Mayhem and the Good Old Boy storyline had been advanced, and I had wondered why it wasn't advanced, and that was the reason why. So now let's go to our next segment. So later on, we have the Aces of Mayhem with Sweet Tabitha. They actually is letting everyone know that they are for real. And Sweet Tabitha, she has the sex appeal going on, so everybody's pretty much even the road agent said she looks good out there. So that's a great thing. And we got a match rating of 42. Then we had, you know, Timberly, Langston, Woods and Fitzpain, and Shane Sneer. Pretty much Shane Sneer gets up from the commentator desk, you know, from the announcer's table, and he goes up there with the good old boys, and he's letting everyone know, and they let everyone know that they are the boss of the Southern Championship Class Wrestling right now. So, and we got a high rating of 64. So we're doing real good with this show so far, everybody. Now, pretty much another decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling, we had Tank Bradley, and I've noticed that he's not having decent matches at all. But he had a match with Oscar again, and he did a Tank Crush, but I'm kind of worried already about Tank Bradley being a focal point at all in, you know, the SCCW, because he had like a 27% match on last card, and he's having like a 28 now. So we're going to have to do a little bit better with Tank Bradley if he's going to be any type of major player with us going forward. Now we got Sergeant Bubba Lee West. He's pretty much stressing more about the lack of discipline in wrestling. So he's laying it on thick about, you know, you need to be disciplined, especially when you're talking about the world of wrestling. So we got a 62% a C rating pretty much for what his segment is telling us about. Then we had a music video talking about Lazy Perfection, and pretty much to round out our show, we have the Dark Lokes defeating that local talent team again, and they hit them with the death sentence. So St. Ives and Old English, they pretty much beat the heck out of these two guys, these jobbers as they would say. So they beat the heck out of them. We get a 40%, 40 overall rating for this match. Wasn't spectacular, but it was enough to let the world know that the Dark Lokes is a real team. So we're going to end our show. So now we're showing that, if you remember, I pretty much lowered the level of our production from last show because we was paying out a whole lot of money for just production in itself. And I would pretty much said I would rather take a hit in our production but actually make money than to actually lose out all that money and go bankrupt before we even get going good. So basically what it's telling us right here in our notes is your show appeared worse in production values than at least one of our rivals. The show appeared worse because of our live event experience is lower than one of our rivals, and we also have broadcast quality levels worse than one of our rivals, and music. So pretty much everything is lower because there is like a couple more companies that's better than us in certain things, but I would rather take that hit as far as I look and I sound than to actually pay out that amount of money. So we'll just take the hit instead of, whatever. But to let you know that it wasn't that big of a hit, it tells us at the end the show increased our popularity in one region. So pretty much I hope that, this is right now going to be look better when we go to the website for the next morning. I hope that we're viewed better by, the wrestling world than what we were before. Pretty much see what we got going on. So we see a lot of things. So right here we have last night's show, and it was basically says that we drew 593 fans, and the feedback has been mainly positive. The company has won many fans, so we did what we was trying to accomplish, and that was try to put it on a better show than we did last time. And I think the last show was like a 45. So let's see what. So the last show I think was a 45. We had a 38 show rating at last show, but right now we got a 38 instead of the 45. But still, I'd rather take that and keep grabbing and clawing our way up to the top and putting on good shows than to actually put in a whole lot of money and it doesn't help us out in the end. So let's check our emails. So pretty much one of the local talents, he basically is like, I don't know about this, and he's needing time to recover. But he pretty much, I may sign him, and I may not going forward. But I'm gonna have to look into getting at least like maybe two tag teams and maybe like four additional wrestlers. And so that's one of the things I'm going to work on, going forward. I'm going to try to do that as far as pretty much our wrestling company is concerned. Because right now I have a focal point on 16 wrestlers. So I'm going to probably, as I said, look at bringing in maybe another 8 wrestlers and just have them some as like enhancement talent, so that I can build on the wrestlers that I want and the other ones to just be there to just kind of make everybody else look good. So to kind of give you a quick overview of what we got going on right now, we have lost $57,000. That hurts. Our ticket sales so far has been 13,764. We done made 4,000 in sponsors, almost 1,500 in merchandise, and almost we getting close to 1,200 in miscellaneous stuff. We done paid out, and that's another reason why I want to really try to find some local talent that's way cheaper. Right now, we've paid out over 35,000 in workers. Our show cost is almost 4,500 in marketing and merchandise. We close to being around $750 in that. And remember, our production, it was nowhere close to being as much. It was like 28,000, I think, last show, and now it was only 36,000. So we really have fixed that, but we still got to climb out of a big old hole from where I didn't kind of keep an eye on how I set up my merchandise and stuff. You got to remember, when you play TEW and you use some people of the real world mods, you can almost use all type of money when you have like 40 million or 50 million in the bank compared to only having 100,000. So that's what was going on with me on that. So pretty much, other than that, I'm going to go into a quick overview of our storylines, and then I'm going to end this episode. So pretty much, we still got just the one match that was accepted as far as the Dark Lokes and Lazy Perfection. Let's see. Now, we did have our very first segment for Jedediah and Chip Conduct, where he walks off during that show. So we started with the heat of 33. So right now the fans is kind of viewing us on that level. And we still haven't had Bubba Lee West and Tank Bradley kind of have a reason to advance their storyline, but we're building the characters of Bubba Lee West and Tank Bradley. And remember, I'm kind of iffy on Tank Bradley right now, so I don't know. Maybe we can make him do something better, or he may wind up becoming one of our, enhancement talents in the future. And then we had on my part, where I slacked on having the Aces of Mayhem debut and stuff. We had that very first match to start pretty much this particular storyline, where they had the match with the local talent. And then we have pretty much still, we building up Willie York and Jack Griffith. We building up their characters and stuff to let everyone know who they are. So pretty much we just letting them build up who they are to the crowd, and we're getting ready to work towards that. So as I said, we had a better show than we did before. I'm kind of happy about it, and the main thing is that if we can continue to do so, we're going to show history just to see where we was at. So we had, even though it was a 45 rating and stuff, and we had a 38, I'm more confident that we did better in our second show than we did in our first. So that's one of the things that we're going to continue to work on, and I'm glad that you was with me. I'm going to do some stuff behind the scenes and things like that, and hopefully the next show that we get to is going to be one that's going to help us further, not only our weeks and stuff in the South, in the SCCW, but it's going to be something to continue work towards April, which, and the way that I got this set up, we're gonna have one of our major shows in April on here. So we in week 3 of January of 2016, and I'm hoping that we can have like a major show come in April. So I appreciate it, and I'll see you next episode.